add a little thing to the live. Okay, so for anybody maybe watching this in the future, we're continuing reading and discussing Canto 5. And we'll start by doing both the Italian and the English all the way through. And then we will go back and start with probably line 24 and reading small sections and discussing it. And that will only be in English. We might get to the next canto, but we'll see what happens. And here comes Anne. All right, good. So let me get to here. Okay. So is Anne with us now? No, she's not. We'll just go ahead and start reading. Okay, so Decio, start anytime.
Ok. Così discese del cerchio primaio giù nel secondo, che men loco cingia, e tanto più dolor che punge a guaio. Stavi minos orribilmente e ringia, esamina le colpe nell'intratta, giudica e manda secondo chi avvingia. Dico che quando l'anima malnata gli vien dinanzi, tutto si confessa, e quel conoscitor delle peccata vedi qual loco dell'inferno è da essa. Signesi con la coda tante volte quantunque gradi vuol chi giù sia messa. Sempre dinanzi a lui ne stanno molte, vanno a vicenda ciascuna al giudizio, dicono e odono e poi son giù volte. E tu chi vieni al doloroso spizio, disse Minos a me quando mi vide, lasciando l'atto di contanto offizio. Guarda com'entri e di cui tu ti fide, non ti inganni l'ampiezza dell'entrare, e il duca mio a lui. Perché pur gride, non impedir lo suo fatale andare, vuolsi così colà dove si puote, ciò che si vuole e più non dimandare. Ol incomincion le dolenti notte a farmisi sentire, or son venuto là dove molto pianto mi percuote. Io vieni in loco di ogni luce muto che mucchia come fa mar per tempesta, se da contrari venti è combattuto. La bufera infernal che mai non resta, mena gli spiriti con la sua rapina, voltando e per contendo li molesta. Quando giangon davanti alla ruina, quivi li strida il compianto, il lamento, bestemmian quivi la virtù divina. Intesi chi ha così fatto tormento, enno danati i peccator carnali, che la ragion sommettono al talento, e come gli stornei ne portai l'ali nel freddo tempo a schiera larga e piena, così quel fiato gli spiriti mali, di qua, di là, di giù, di su li mena, nulla speranza li conforta mai, non che li possa, ma di minor pena. E come i gru van cantando l'orlai, facendo in airi di su lunga riga, così vidi io venir traendo guai. Ombre portate alla detta briga, per chi i dissi, Maestro, chi son quelle genti che l'aura nera si castiga? La prima di color di cui novelle Tu vuoi saper, mi disse quella lorta, fu imperatrice di molte favele. A vizio di lussuria fussi rotta, che libito, felicito e sua legge, per torre il biasmo in che era condotta. E le Semiramis, di cui si legge che succedette a Mino, a fu sua sposa, tenne la terra che il soldan corregge. L'altra è colei che s'incise amorosa e ruppe fede al cenar di Sicheo, poi è Cleopatras, lussuriosa. Elena vedi, per cui tanto reo tempo si volsi, vedi, il grande Achille, che con amore al fino combatteo. Vedi Paris, Tristano, e più di 1000 ombre mostromi e nominonni additto che amor di nostra vita di partire. Would you like to read something?
Yes, I'll read about 30 lines. Porcia ch'io ebbe il mio dottore udito, nomar le donne antiche e cavaliere pieta mi giunse e fui quasi sarmito. Là cominciai. Poeta, volontieri, parlerei a che due che insieme vanno e paeano si lavento essere leggeri ed elle a me. Vedrai quando saranno poi presso a noi e tu allor li priega per quello amor che il mena ed everanno. Sì tosto come il vento a noi li piega, mosse la voce. Ah, anime affannate, venite a noi parlar, saltri, nol, niegra, quali colombre dal disio chiamate, con l'ali alzate e fermi al dolce nido, vegno per l'aria dal voler portate, cotali uccir della schiera ove diaido, a noi venendo per l'aria maligno, si forte fu la affettuoso grido. Oh animal gracioso e benigno, che visitando vai per l'aria person, noi che legnemmo il mondo disaguiano, se fosse amico il re dell'universo, noi pregheremo lui della tua pacca, poi cae pietà del nostro mal perverso, de quel che udire e che parlar vi piace. Noi udiremo e parleremo a voi, mentre che la vento, come fa, ci tace. Siede la terra dove nata fu, sulla marina dove può discende per aver pace con seguaci sui. Amor, calcor gentil, ratto s'apprende prese costui della bella persona che mi fui tolta, per modo ancor m'offende. Okay, Decio, go ahead and finish it up.
Amor che a nullo amato amar perdona, mi prese del costui piacer sì forte che, come vedi, a cor non m'abbandona. Amor condusse noi a una morte, Caina attende chi a vita si spense, queste parole da lor ci fuor porte. Quando io intese quell'anime offense, chinà il viso e tanto il tenebasso, finché il poeta mi disse, che pensi? Quando risposi, cominciai. O lasso quanti dolci pensier, quanto disio, menò intorno al doloroso passo. Poi che rivolsi a loro a parlarli io e cominciai. Francesca, i tuoi martiri a lacrimar mi fanno tristo e pio, ma dimmi al tempo di dolci sospiri a che e come concedete amore che conosceste i dubbiosi desiri e quella a me. Nessun maggior dolore che ricordarsi del tempo felice che la miseria e ch'io sa il tuo dottore, ma sa conoscer la prima radice del nostro amor, tu hai con tanto affetto, dirò come colui che piange e dice, noi leggevamo un giorno per diletto di Lancelotto come amor lo strinse, soli eravamo e senza alcun sospetto. Per più fiate gli occhi ci sospinse. Quella lettura scoloròci il viso, ma solo un punto fu quel che ci vinse. Quando leggemmo il disiato riso esser baciato da cotanto amante, questi che mai da me non fia diviso. La bocca mi baciò tutto tremante. Galeotto fu il libro a chi lo scrisse. Quel giorno più non li leggevamo avanti. Mentre chi l'uno spirito questo disse, l'altro piangeva.
Oh, what happened there?
L'altro piangea, sì che di pietate io veni, men così come io morissi, e cadi come corpo morto cade.
All right, thank you very much. So do we have an updated English reading list? Because we have 3 people. Sylvia, twice. Sylvia's blessing us with 2 Sylvias today. And John, good to see you, John. And Anna.
No,
Oh,
she's having trouble, I think.
yeah, I think one of your devices has got to go, Sylvia. You're
No, but
feeding.
that's the noise.
Uh-huh.
All right. My apologies.
It happens.
Just I was trying to get something sorted, but it's not working.
Okay,
Okay.
so it sounds like you're good to go now. So do we have the updated English reading list, Anne?
And Doyle,
Anne Doyle?
you're muted.
I'm not sure she can hear us. Turn
Okay.
on your.
I was chatting away to myself. Yeah, I just added John and Sylvia, and I'm waiting for Anne to join.
Yeah, she's having trouble. She may
Okay,
not.
okay. So if she doesn't, we'll see what happens. In the meantime, we will go with the English, and let me call up my dear.
What
And
are we on? Are
we're
we on
Canto
five?
5? Canto 5.
5.
And you might as well put Anne on just in case. Just put her at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, put her at the end, and then I'll be watching if she doesn't actually become
Oh, that's
speakable, then I will. Okay, are we ready? There, okay. Thus I descended out of the first circle down to the second, that less space begirds, and so much greater dole that goads to wailing. There standeth Minos horribly and snarls, examines the transgressions at the entrance, judges and sends accordingly as he girds him. Next reader, please.
I say that when the spirit evil born cometh before him, holy it confesses, and this discriminator of transgressions, seeth what place in hell is meet for it, girds himself with his tail as many times as graves he wisheth should be thrust down. Always before him many of them stand. They go by turns, each one unto the judgment. They speak and hear, and then are downward hurled. O thou, that to this glorious hostelry comest, said Minos to me, when he saw me, leaving the practice of so great an office. Look how thou interest, and in whom thou trusts. Let not the portal's amplitude deceive thee. And unto him, my guide, why criest thou to? Do not impede his journey, fate ordained. It is so willed there, where is power to do that which is willed, and ask no further question. Next, please.
And now begin the dulcet notes to grow audible unto me. Now I am come there where much lamentation strikes upon me. I came into a place mute of all light, which bellows as the sea does in a tempest, if by opposing winds 'tis combated. The infernal hurricane that never rests hurtles the spirit onwards in its rapine, whirling them round and smiting. It molests them. When they arrive before the precipice, there are shrieks, the plaints and the laments. There they blaspheme the puissance divine. I understood that unto such a torment the carnal malefactors were condemned, who reason subjugate to appetite. Next.
Like as starlings wheel in the wintry season, in wide and clustering flocks, windborne, even so they go, the souls who did this treason. Hither and thither, and up and down, outworn, hopeless of any rest. Rest, did I say? Of the least minishing of their pangs forlorn. And as cranes go chanting their harsh lay across the sky in long procession trailing, so I beheld some shadows borne my way. Driven by the blast and uttering wail on wailing, wherefore I said, O Master, art thou able to name these spirits thrashed by the black winds flailing? Next, please.
The first of those of whom intelligence thou fain wouldst have, then said he unto me, the Empress was of many languages. To sensual vice she was so abandoned, that lustful she made listed in her law, to remove the blame to which she had been led. She Semiramis, of whom we read that she succeeded Nemus and was his spouse. She held the land which now the Sultan rules. The next is she who killed herself for love and broke faith with the ashes of Sicheus. Then Cleopatra, the voluptuous, Helen I saw, for whom so many ruthless seasons revolved, and saw the great Achilles, who at the last hour combated with love. Paris I saw, Tristan, and more than 1,000 shades did he name and point out with his finger, whom love hath separated from our life. After that I had listened to my teacher, namely the dames of eld and cavaliers. Pity prevailed and was night bewildered. And I began, O poet, willingly speak, would I to those two who go together and seem upon the wind to be so light. And he to me, thou it mark when they shall be nearer to us, and then to thou implore them by love which leadeth them, and they will come. Soon as the wind in our direction sways them, my voice uplift I. O ye weary souls, come speak to us, if no one interdicts it. Next, please.
Who's next?
John,
Mm,
can't hear John. Are you
You-
muted, John?
Your mouth is moving, but we can't hear any sound. Oh,
How weird.
okay. So John, you've got an audio problem to figure out. In the meantime, let's go ahead and go to Dave Little.
I didn't get a chance. Oh, yeah, I did get a chance. Sorry.
I just did read, but I will read again if you would like.
Oh, excuse me. No. That's so Decio read. Oh, so it'd be
John
Sylvia, are you reading?
and Sylvia's next.
Yeah,
And Anne isn't going to stay. She gave up.
Okay. All right. So Sylvia, I'll follow
yeah.
you.
Okay. As doves called by desire to return to their sweet nest, with wings raised high and poised, float downward through the air, guided by will. So these two left the flock where Dido is and came forward us through the malignant air. Such was the tender power of my call. O living creature, gracious and so kind, who makes your way here through this dingy air to visit us, who stained the world with blood. If we could claim as friend the King of Kings, we would beseech him that he grant you peace. You who show pity for our atrocious plight. Whatever pleases you to hear or speak, we will hear, and we will speak about with you as long as the wind here where we are is silent. Next.
Okay. John, did you by chance figure out your sound problem?
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. I think I did. Yes, okay.
Okay, please
So
read.
let's see. Where were we here now? If I
think
were
it's
king,
97.
okay, I don't have the numbers on my text here. So, could you tell me what the last line was that you read there, please, Sylvia?
As long as the wind here where we are is silent, maybe different in your edition.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I find where you are now. Okay.
Okay, great.
Sorry. Okay. Sitteth the city wherein I was born, upon the seashore where the Po descends to rest in peace with all his retinue. Love that on gentle heart doth swiftly seize this man for the person beautiful, that was ta'en from me, and still the mode offends me. Love that exempts no one beloved from loving, sees me with pleasure of this man so strongly, that it's thou seest, it doth not yet desert me. Love has conducted us unto one death. Cana waiteth him who quenched our life. These words were borne along from them to us. As soon as I had heard these souls tormented, I bowed my face, and so long held it down, until the poet said to me, "What thinkest?" When I made answer, I began, "Alas, how many pleasant thoughts, how much desire conducted these unto the dolorous past." Next, please.
Okay, so Ann Doyle, would you go ahead and read if you're ready?
Then unto them I turned me, and I spake, and I began. Thine agonies, Francesca, sad and compassionate to weeping make me. But tell me, at the time of those sweet sighs, by what and in what manner love conceded, that you should know your dubious desires. And she to me, there is no greater sorrow than to be mindful of the happy time in misery, and that thy teacher knows. But if to recognize the earliest root of love in us thou hast so great desire, I will deem even as he who weeps and speaks. One day we reading were for our delight of Lancelot, how love did him enthrall. Alone we were, and without any fear. Go, Didi.
Full many
It's
a
line one.
time. Yeah, I have it.
Perfect.
Full many a
Thanks.
time our eyes together drew that reading and drove the color from our faces. But one point only was it that o'ercame us, when as we read of the much longed for smile, being by such noble lover kissed, this one who ne'er from me shall be divided, kissed me upon my mouth, all palpitating. Galeotto was the book, and he who wrote it that day, and he who wrote it. That day no farther did we read therein, and all the while one spirit uttered this, the other one did weep so that for pity I swooned away as if I had been dying, and fell even as the dead body falls.
Oh, great. So as I remember it, last time we had begun and we had gotten down to around line
It's 24, 25.
24, 25. And as I remember it, the main people talking at that time were myself and Ann Doyle and Dee Dee. So whoever is after Dee Dee today, I would like them to begin reading on line 25 and read as much as you think is a good chunk. And then we will discuss that. And it's really up to the reader to decide how much they're going to read. So who is that next?
I am the culprit here. I'm just trying to figure out where the break should appear. Okay, I think yeah. All right, let's try that. I'll do 5 cantos if you don't think that's too long.
This is an imprecise science here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Okay. And now the sounds of grief began to fill my ear. I'm come where cries of anguish smite my shrinking sense, and lamentation shrill, a place made dumb of every glimmer of light, which bellows like tempestuous ocean burling in the batter of a two-way wind's buffet and fight. The blast of hell that never rests from whirling harries the spirits along in the sweep of its swath and vexes them, forever beating and hurling. When they are borne to the rim of the ruinous path, with cry and wail and shriek, they are caught by the gust, railing and cursing the power of the Lord's wrath. Into this torment carnal sinners are thrust, so I was told. The sinners who make their reason bond thrall under the yoke of their lust.
all right.
Mm.
Comments, questions?
I think that the comment or the picture that's conveyed, I think, is one that has been, I think, depicted in a lot of, I think, I see in some 19th century etchings and drawings and so forth, or even paintings, I think, of kind of the thing of the whirlwind and hurling the damned into under the last judgment into this flaming vortex. So I think this is maybe the image that they're reading from, or they're capturing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But Duncan, can you access, maybe not today, William Blake illustrated this.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
And
go.
it would be interesting to see what
Yes,
he did.
I can access it, and it doesn't have to wait. I just have to go to the right place here. Go here, and then I'm going to go here. And I need to go Divine Comedy. There's William Blake.
Yeah.
These are all images.
Oh,
Paolo and Francesca.
Paolo Francesca's, yes.
Mhm,
Paolo Francesca.
mhm. And there is the Blake one that you're
Okay.
referring to.
Yeah.
So here we have, this is really all these paintings, but particularly the Blake one. It's dark, it's in constant movement, and it's bodies.
Mm.
And really one of the major themes of this chapter, there we have, they've been murdered by
Very dramatic.
the husband.
Oh, wow.
And we talked a little bit before. Oh, there we go. Now we got
Oh, dear.
Francesca Paolo, and there's the husband.
Yep.
In
He
the
doesn't look too
Blake,
happy.
in the Blake, it looked like
Oh,
he
yeah.
put
That's Gustav Dore. I have that on
Paolo
this.
and Francesca into the light. Blake did. That's how the picture looked. See that?
Yes, I think that's because Dante has called them, and they have removed themselves a little bit
Uh-huh.
from the
Sure.
flurry because he called them. So
In the
that's why.
beginning of the beginning of the canto, there is a thunder. This is the light of the thunder, maybe.
The light of what?
Thunder.
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 Yeah, that definitely though is a male-female embrace going on there though.
Indeed.
Mm.
So I would say in addition to the thunder, it's also Paolo and Francesca.
Mhm.
Maybe lightning, but it's quiet.
Hmm. I think a very important thing to keep in mind is that the attraction of Francesca and Paolo to each other is not the problem. The problem is that it is expressed carnally,
Mm.
and that's why they ended up here.
Lustiness.
Yeah, it went from love to lust.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. These are some very lovely representations here. Here's a nice one. That must be Dante looking at them.
Oh, yeah.
Dante and Virgilio.
Hmm.
The pictures of Dante that I've seen, that's how he looks. There must be some old portrait that's statue.
Yeah, well, that would be a younger or middle-aged Dante. He's usually represented as probably in the last decade of his life. He's his features have changed a lot, so it's kind of interesting to see him looking like this. Mhm. Okay,
mhm.
let us perhaps go back to the text again. And I'm going to stop the sharing. This is Electric Light Company. If you want to look at this later, let me copy the URL and I'll put it in the chat. And I will stop the sharing. And put that there. So, Dave Little, since you were the reader, do you have anything else that you want to say about this or ask about this?
No, maybe a couple comments for what they're worth.
Okay.
It's interesting. That picture is interesting to me because I haven't thought about it before. But here we have an older Dante as writer casting judgment on the lustful indiscretions of a younger couple. Presumably, his blood at the age that he wrote was flowing more temperately than the people he's judging, and I think maybe that's something we would want to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
The tempestuousness of the lines that I just read, I think are mirroring the fact that just as these people are blown hither and yon in the Inferno by the wind, so they were they therefore lack sort of volitional capacity to move. They're going where the wind sends them. I think that's a comment about what Dante saw as the original sin, right? That they had lost their volitional capacity
Yeah.
to act because their lust had overcome their will.
And I think it's important to remember that Dante was a love poet.
A what?
He was a love poet. In much of his poetry, he was going along in the troubadour tradition, and that tradition basically relied upon the idea that love carries us away, that we lose our volition.
But a courtly love, no? Courtly love.
Yeah, he was in that courtly love thing, which I think we'll see reflected when in his sympathy for Paolo and Francesca, and the fact that he will faint at the end of this.
Cade come corpo morto cade. Yeah.
And actually, he's very gentle. Of course, we don't know that because we don't know the literature of the day. But in most of the representations of the lustful in hell are truly horrifying. And this is a fairly gentle punishment.
That's a good point.
There are no devils tormenting the lover's genitals, for example, which was a common theme.
Yes, and even here, if given a choice, I would take the constant motion of this level of hell to where people are fixed in place further down. This seems a more, if it's not an oxymoron, this seems a more benign punishment than what happens further below, where mobility is much restricted.
Yeah, although it can't be pleasant to be totally blown around all the time.
Good point.
But this is to represent their sin, though. Their sin is not to love. Their sin is to allow themselves to be constantly blown around and to excuse themselves, as Francesca will do a little bit further down, by saying we couldn't help ourselves.
Yeah, she blames everything. She blames the book. She blames Paolo. She blames absolutely everybody. She doesn't take responsibility. And I think that's where that comes in, this sin of incontinence, where they don't control their emotions, be it for love or be it for wealth or whatever, what we'll see later on, the deadly sins.
It really takes you to his representation of Ulysses further down in the Inferno, because Ulysses went beyond what was moral too, and that's what he dared, and that's what it got him. And he wonders about himself as we go through this. Dante, am I doing what God wants, or am I violating what's allowed, what God allows?
Are you saying that's a question that Dante is asking himself?
Yeah, it comes up. He questions that as we read along. He wonders if he's going too far in telling the story.
Oh, Okay, and actually the poetry that he's writing here.
Uh-huh. He questions whether
Okay.
he's daring beyond what's allowed by
Okay.
God.
Well, please be kind enough to point that out to us as we go along in our readings.
Yeah, it's really it's more or less an ongoing examination of his own conscience, in the sense,
Right.
I'm judging here. Does that violate, Christ's command that I be judged?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
All right. Shall we go to the next section, and who would the reader be?
This.
Yeah.
Decio. Okay,
And
Decio.
okay. As the wings of startling bird alarm on the cold season in large band in full, so that blast the spirit's melody. It thither, downward, upward drives them. No hope doubts comfort them for evermore, not of repose, but even of lesser pain. And as the cranes go chanting for their lays, making in air a long line of themselves, so saw I coming, uttering lamentations, shadows borne onward by the aforesaid stress. Whereupon said I, Master, who are those people whom the black air so castigates? The first of those of whom intelligence thou fain wouldst have, then said he unto me, the empress was of many languages. So sensual vices she was to abandon, the lustful she made licit in her love, to remove the blame to which she had been led. She is Semiramis, of whom we read that she succeeded Nemus and was his spouse. She held the land which now the Sultan rules. The next is she who killed herself for love and broke faith with the ashes of Sicheus. And Cleopatra, the voluptuous Helen I saw, for whom so many restless seasons revolved, and saw the great Achilles, who at the last hour combated love. So Dante asks to Virgil, who are those souls?
Mm-hmm.
In Semiramis, who she was a wife or a king, and in
Mm-hmm.
antiquity, Nemus, and she made sex with everybody. And then he talked about Dido. Dido
Mm-hmm.
was the Aeneid, a woman who lived in Carthago, who left their country and was living in Carthago, and Aeneas was in love with her. And he abandoned her to go to Italy, and then she committed suicide. And also we saw Helen. Helen is the cause of the war of Troy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's related to the Odyssey and Achilles, the hero Achilles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With
Helen.
Helen seems a different quantity, and I don't know the story well enough. Cleopatra and Semiramis, they made the decision, but did Helen make the decision, or was she just delegated to the next man in the picture? I don't know the answer to that.
She ran off
No,
with Paris.
she ran off with Paris and left her husband.
She was abducted by Paris.
Paris
Menelaus. Paris
Yeah.
was Trojan.
Yeah, I know, but why did she run off with Paris?
And leave her husband, Menelaus. Ooh.
Yeah, it had something to do with her being the most beautiful woman.
Yeah, that was called the apple of discord.
The apple of discord was Paris.
Right. Yeah. So was she? It was her will, or she she offended a goddess because Helen was more beautiful than the god. I'm clarifying what I know. If you can tell me, never mind, we all know this.
Well, that may be the story, but remember, at root, that Dante is writing a Christian story.
Well, I know, but
the
she's
idea,
different.
hold on, and the idea that the Greek gods caused her to do that is not a valid excuse in Christian thought.
Well,
Even
but
though,
he seems sympathetic, like to Francesca and what's his name, but
Paolo.
Paolo, but he seems to class her with the women who made the choice, rather than the goddess kind of being offended.
She fell in love with Paris. Paris went to visit Menelaus, and he had an affair with her. So he took her to Troy, and then the Greeks made a great fleet of 1,000 ships to
I know, yeah.
Troy.
So in other words, it wasn't the gods, it was her choice. That's what I'm getting to.
Fall in love with Paris. No? She
Yeah,
was a nice guy.
But but in my
No, I know what you're saying, Gigi. Yeah, it was Francesca's choice as well. And yet he has sympathy for Francesco, but he doesn't have sympathy for the rest of them.
But was she abducted?
Yeah, that's that's the question.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
No. I think she went voluntarily. There's two, on that particular story, there's two things that happened. One is Paris was a guest of Menelaus, and it was considered a very rude thing for a guest to betray the host. So, Menelaus would have been more than a little upset with Paris. And then, of course, the fact that Helen ran off with Paris. You can correct me next time if you find out anything that Helen was abducted. But I don't think she was abducted. I think she was willingly. Although,
in my reference, it says that Paris was the son of Priam, king of Troy, whose abduction of Helen ignited the Trojan War.
Yes, that's correct.
I think what you may be getting at, and this may be the confusing part. I think, as Anne Doyle mentioned before, I think there was this apple of discord, or the orange of discord, I guess, depending on the fruit of discord. Anyways, didn't that give? I think maybe the reward in some ways, and I think was it Athena that gave he was chosen as being more beautiful over the other goddesses. She was chosen as more beautiful, and I think wasn't his reward that he would be like irresistible, and maybe there's a you might say his power, and this was given greater power in a sense over women. So she was in a sense overcome in the Greek myth by this power that was given by a goddess over this as a result of that chain of events in the myth. So maybe but we see that's sort of invalidated by Christian thought. So I mean, we can get back to that, I suppose, and you can take that for what it's worth. But I think that's where the bit about, the whole issue about free will and so forth comes into that. And of course, if the gods are, the gods, they play with people, and they sometimes take away free choice in those circumstances in the Greek mythologies.
Yeah, and in Greek thought, that would be considered valid. But in Christian thought, as we will find out, of course, it's going to be a long time before we find it out. The clearest instant I remember of finding out actually is in Paradiso, where there's this whole discussion about the influence of the stars, et cetera, et cetera. And what Dante learns is, yes, different people have different propensities, depending upon what star they're born under. So some would be born under, the star of love, and they would have more of a tendency to, get involved in illicit relationships, etc. But that actually is not an excuse. It's just an explanation. And so, even if Paris was the most beautiful man in the world, and that the gods had something to do with that, that would be not a final excuse for Helen. Just like we'll find out that for Francesca has her excuses, and basically we'll find out that her excuses, while interesting, are not totally valid.
Yeah. That goes along. I'm reading St. Augustine, and he had scorn for the astrologers. That's one of the things he learned as he was gradually deciding to become Catholic.
Uh-huh.
And from the Christian point of view, she is a sinner of lustful.
Yeah. That's why I say it can be an explanation, but it's not an excuse.
Yeah, because she is where she is in this second ring. So she's been judged in some way.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting point, because you could say that the real point that's going on here is that this is never discussed directly, is that she and Paolo remain in hell forever, because of their thinking, because they will not recognize that their sin is not being attracted to each other. Their sin is letting their reason be overcome.
Your original sin.
I think it's possible to make the argument, although should never expect anybody to agree to it, that the people who are in hell because they keep themselves in hell. That each one of the characters that we meet in hell is not ready to repent of anything.
But they died before they could repent, though, before they had that opportunity that offered to them.
That is an argument that could be made against what I've just said. But I for now hold the position that even in hell, though it's very unlikely, a person could learn to recognize why they were in hell, and they could change. Of course, the party line is once you're in hell forever.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is that, Duncan, is that something
Right at the beginning, yeah.
Duncan, is that something that you find, since I haven't read the Inferno, is that something you find that you take that Dante kind of suggests or even says at some point later on throughout as a theme throughout his work here?
Well, I'm going a little bit further than Dante would certainly have gone in describing this. But the whole idea of when we get to Purgatorio, you'll find that largely the difference between the people in Purgatorio and the people in hell is the people in Purgatory have recognized where they screwed up, and they are willing to go through the transformations of their soul that eventually they have a chance of ending up in paradise.
Okay.
Whereas the characters we meet in the Inferno, who are really not any worse than the people in the Purgatorio in terms of their original sins,
Right.
except for the fact that they persist in thinking they've done nothing wrong.
They repent from the sin.
And in purgatory, yes. In purgatory, they repent. But the Inferno, they're not repenting. They're going to do just what we're going to see in just a few seconds. I think we have enough time. We're going to see what Francesca does, which is excuse herself.
Okay.
Back to the Homer and the Trojan War. Achilles is in this circle. Is it because of the dispute over the slave girl Briseis that he would find himself in such a location?
Maybe. I have notes here. It says Achilles, the greatest of the Greek heroes in the Trojan War. In later stories, embroidering, so maybe it was later on Homer's Iliad, his love for the Trojan princess Polyxena, Polyxena, caused him to be lured into a trap and killed by Paris. This was the first time I'd heard this. Yeah, because her name was Brixius or something, wasn't it?
I think
Something like that. And that's why, his servant was killed, because he fought instead of him. So he went on strike.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was his lover, I think, Patroclus.
Yeah, well, they would have had,
who put on his armor and got killed. Yeah, who warred with love, and that war was his last. So you're suggesting that it's extra Homeric. His deeds, in an extra Homeric sense, that get him put here.
He let his desire overcome his reason.
What sin did Achilles committed? Achilles had lust toward Polyxena because of how strongly he felt about Polyxena, and was therefore placed in hell. Because of it, in Canto 5, it states, their sin was to abandon themselves to the tempest of their passion. So they are set forever for the tempest of hell, forever denied the light of the reason of God.
Yeah. An underlying theme of this whole chapter is an underlying theme of this whole canto and much of the whole commedia is the relationship between desire and reason. And if Paolo and Francesca, if any of these couples had subjected their carnal desire to reason, they wouldn't be in this level of hell.
Lust.
It's lust, and the idea of lust is that you lose your reason.
And I guess Paula and Francesca had the best reason of the group.
Well, okay. All right.
Interesting.
Well, she married his brother because she thought she was marrying him, right?
I don't think so. No,
That's the story. That is.
That's a story.
Absolutely. That one I remember. Yeah, she thought she was marrying Paolo, and when the wedding came up, it wasn't. He wooed her. She fell in love with him, but then the family replaced the brother for Paolo because he was the older and needed to be married first.
The eldest brother or eldest daughter thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they had the best excuse.
This is actually a very subtle point here because and this is what Dante thinks on some level, which is why he's sympathetic. But I think that the whole theme of the Divine Comedy is by the time he goes through all three levels, if he was able to go back and view Paolo and Francesca again with the knowledge with the spiritually mature Dante, he would not have been so sympathetic and he would not have fainted.
And would he have even gotten married? He knew he loved Beatrice when he married the wife his family imposed upon him. And they had several children, 4 or 5. And some of the children, the sons, ended up living with him finally. And where was he? Oh, with Can Grande, which city was that?
It was in Ravenna, I
And
believe.
there was a person, it was Ravenna,
But
where
Beatrice
he
had
died.
died long before he got married.
I don't know how long, but he knew he loved her. I mean, if you're talking about what comes up, that comes up later in Paradiso,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe at the end of Purgatorio.
Beatrice definitely criticizes him when they meet
Oh yeah.
in the Garden of Eden towards the end of the Purgatorio.
Here's Harriet.
As Harriet appears.
She's
Okay.
only looking, I think.
But so they're all here because of different types of love or lust. Because line 69 says, whom love had separated from our life. All of these people.
Yeah.
The 1,000 that were named.
Yeah.
He tells us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
They're all there.
It's
All
the wrong
there.
type of love. The wrong type of love. So which is lost.
Yeah.
Got in
The wrong type of love, which is the simple determination of that is the reason is ignored. Like there's nothing wrong with the attraction of Francesca and Paolo. You could even say they're soulmates. But the sin that got them in the Inferno is letting that love and desire overcome their reason. This is how I understand it at this point. Because once again, we've got three basic things which Dante is going to hammer on over and over again: free will, justice, and love. Those are the simplified three big themes. Without free will, without the deeper sort of love, and without justice, there's no Christianity.
It's like the ideal, is it possible? The religion has an ideal and is the reality of existence. Can it be ideal?
You know, I would say, and this speaks to Dave Little's point, that perhaps it is a sign of my age, but I don't think it's unrealistic. Now, that may just be because I'm approaching my 80th year, and the youthful fires, shall we say, don't burn as bright. But I would contend that it's not unrealistic at all. Is it hard? Is it subject to society's criticisms? You bet. Society does not like any of that. They don't like the idea of free will. We've got something going on in the audio sphere here.
Hmm.
So there's no way that we can solve the issue that you brought up, Dee Dee. I'm just stating my position.
Well, speaking to Dee Dee's point, though, I think speaking of what Decio, I think mentioned before that I never thought about this until he mentioned it, is that if Dante is writing in this tradition, or maybe he's the beginner of it, I'm not quite sure where to place in time and so forth, but the whole tradition of courtly love, that wasn't ideal. I mean, the idea that love should be chaste, basically, and that was the knight's standard, the knight and the middle-aged standard, I guess, for the knight errant and so forth, that their love should be chaste and from afar. And I guess was the just rambling thought here, that was kind of the tradition that, that kind of ended with Don Quixote, I suppose, with Cervantes' writing of Don Quixote, when he kind of makes a bit of a satire of the whole thing. But maybe Dante's the beginning. Some thought.
I think Dante did all of them, though. I think that at certain times he had, the tradition you're talking about with the chaste love, and I think there were other times when it was not necessarily so chaste. But the idea was that love would sweep you away. And this is a thing which Dante is struggling with, since he was a pretty good poet of that stuff.
He's human too.
And I think part of this Canto 5 is him actually dealing with this issue. And when Francesca talks about being overcome while reading about Lancelot and Guinevere, who did not stick to the chaste version, okay, that Dante knows that he has written poems like that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I get your point, sure.
And so he's really, he's struggling with this
Struggle with
issue. He's having, he's not accused directly of anything, but internally he's got to be dealing with this.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have an extraneous question. Maybe John knows. Is there a good translation of Don Quixote? I have one, and it's not well translated, and so it's not fun to read.
Oh, yeah, that's a drag. I think I'm afraid I can't recommend anything because the last time I read Don Quixote was in high school.
Oh, never mind.
We
We had someone
there's a
who
library
knew
book.
here.
I'm sorry?
I thought we had somebody here who knew that answer that question.
No. I was going kind of from just my more recent readings of interpretations of Don Quixote and Cervantes by this French literary critic René Girard. He writes about the novelist and the development of novels and so in terms of mythic themes and so forth. And he addresses that point about and how he got some very insightful points about Dante or about Cervantes. I mean,
what's the title of the book you're referring to?
Um,
or essay, whatever it is.
That's a clue. I can.
I'll get back to you on this, but the one I've read a couple of his things, and he's the one that comes to mind is things long hidden since the beginning, or something like that. I guess I've got it upstairs in my place here. I'll email. I'll put a thing on the messenger here.
That'd be good. That'd be good. Okay.
Yeah.
But does it strike anybody else that there's a huge degree of sexism here? That the women are the temptresses here in this. And this old lady said to my friend's future husband, he was a widower, she said, "Oh, there'd be no bad men in the world if there weren't bad women." So there's something, so the Eve tempting Adam and all that.
No, that's a 20th century version or 21st century prism we look at there. So we have a long tradition to look back on.
I have to go and look. Maybe I can count the number of male and female names in Canto 5.
I'm wondering on that point, Duncan, if
Mhm.
he does try to balance things out, Sylvia, when he talks about Achilles, Paris, and Tristram.
It's
So you have
Yeah.
So let's count this. I mean, so Paulo and Francesca. Okay, we'll cancel each other out gender-wise then. Semiramis 1.
Okay, so let me hold on.
Dido 2.
Let me put
Cleopatra
female and
3.
male.
And Helen 4. And then he does mention 3 male names. So yeah.
But Tristan
It's
and
balanced.
Isolde is a team in Finnegan's Wake.
True.
And
Only Tristan is
Mhm.
mentioned here.
but their sin was they were in love because Isolde was supposed to be wife to King Mark. So Tristan committed a sin to take his future wife.
Yeah, he committed several sins, as a matter of fact. One, he did exactly what Paris did. He committed the sin of the of the guest who portrays his host, and he committed the sin of stealing his host wife. So,
yeah.
but once again, I'll say that the real theme behind all this is letting desire overcome carnal desire overcome reason. That there was nothing wrong with Francesca being attracted to Paolo and Paolo being attracted to Francesca, except that they betrayed the husband and they let their reason be swept aside.
There's something more to this.
Sure.
The separation of spiritual love from physical love. And Beatrice represents spiritual love of any two people, whereas the physical is like a separate concept in this whole story. So it seems to me.
I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
I'm not sure there's that much of a separation, frankly. But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Well, in Dante and what he's struggling with.
Yeah, okay.
But wasn't Beatrice married?
She was married. She died
So
pretty young, but she married.
And he was still desiring her.
Right. Even it seemed like later in the Commedia that physical desire was part of how he wrote about their relationship. It's so interesting. I think we should keep reading.
All righty. Well, who's the next reader? Decio.
That would be me.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
So, Paris I saw, Tristan, and more than 1,000 shades did he name and point out with his finger, whom love had separated from our life. After that, I had listened to my teacher, naming the dames of eld and cavaliers. Pity prevailed, and I was nigh bewildered. And I began, O poet, willingly speak, who I to those two who go together, and seem upon the wind to be so light. And he to me, thou'lt mark, when they shall be near to us, and then do thou implore them by love which leadeth them, and they will come. Soon as the wind, and in our direction sways them. My voice uplift I. O ye weary souls, come speak to us if no one interdicts it. So I'll just stop there.
Okay.
I guess
He's
that was,
just asking who are those two souls, and this
yeah,
is
I guess
Paolo
that's
and Francesca. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Should I read on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As turtle doves called onward by desire, with open and steady wings to the sweetest nest, fly through the air by their volition borne, so came they from the band where Dido is, approaching us athwart the air malign. So strong was the affectionate appeal. O living creature, gracious and benignant, who visiting guests through the purple air us, who have stained the world incarnadine, if I were the king of the universe, our friend, we would pray unto him to give thee peace, since thou hast pity on our woe perverse.
Uh,
Of what it pleases thee to hear and speak, that will we hear, and we will speak to you while silent is the wind, as it is now.
I love
Okay.
this part. Oh, living creatures, that verse. And the next verse, if we're the king of universe, our friend, we would pray unto him to give thee peace, since
Mhm.
thou hast pity on our woe perverse.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's and it just seems like a very strong
90.
relationship with the divine there, and
Well, they
that
don't have it.
they don't have it. Yeah.
They don't have it. They don't have it. Mhm.
It's almost like he's saying, why are you here? That doesn't seem right to me.
Remember, we got two Dantes going on here. One is the mature Dante who's actually writing the poem, and then he's describing the immature Dante who's actually with Virgilio in this level of hell. And notice that he makes his request in a loving manner.
Hmm.
And just by expressing love in this area of hell, he's able to have an effect to where they can leave the whirling wind, step outside of it for a little while to talk to him.
And I think if we continue here, it gets a little bit into
Yeah.
focus more.
Yeah. So whoever's next, I'll just stop where I stopped there.
Okay, who's next to him? Um, who is next? So David, John, Sylvia.
Sylvia.
Yeah, what are we on? Are we on
One.
97?
94 or 5 of what it pleases thee.
Yep.
Oh, do you want me to start there?
Yes.
Mhm.
97. Mhm.
The place where I was born lies on the shore where the river Po, with its attendant streams, descends to find its final resting place. Love, quick to kindle in the gentle heart, seize this one for the beauty of my body, torn from me. How it happened still offends me. Love that excuses no one, love from loving, seized me so strongly with delight in him that, as you see, he never leaves my side. Love led us straight to sudden death together. Kaina awaits the one who quenched our lives. These were the words that came from them to us. When those offended souls had told their story, I bowed my head and kept it bowed until the poet said, "What are you thinking of?" When I finally spoke, I sighed. Alas, all those sweet thoughts, and oh, how much desiring brought those two down into this agony. Shall I go on?
I think we could stop just briefly here.
Mm.
Who is Kaina? Kaina was like a
Uh,
107.
that's
Inferno.
Inferno 32, Didi.
What is
That's
it?
where people
The
who betrayed their
ninth
relatives go.
Ninth circle. It's the ninth
That's
circle.
it. And it's called after Cain, who killed his brother Abel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kane.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. Wow.
So he'll go further down. Not
Yeah,
Yeah, killing is a much worse sin than.
he killed his family, his relatives.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I'll just point out the obvious. Francesca's spending quite a bit of time excusing herself.
Yeah, he who quenched our life. That's her excuse.
No. I'm talking about the love part of things, not the being murdered part.
No.
I think I get this. I was misreading this before myself. I was thinking that was Dante was speaking, but I was like, she is speaking, and she's kind of feeling sorry for herself a little bit.
Yeah.
And quite saying,
Yeah.
it wasn't really my fault that I ended up here because all these things happen, you see. And if the king of the universe was my friend, I would pray that but I'm so happy that you have you pity us as you do to speak with us like this.
But
So,
he's the man she didn't expect to have to marry.
mhm.
I think when reading what's her name, my favorite writer, Dante is quite deliberately putting these details into the Commedia.
Mhm.
You know, how unfair it
Hmm.
was that she had to marry the brother she didn't want to marry.
Where did he put that in the Commedia?
Pardon me?
Where's that in the Commedia?
Right here, right here.
Where?
The Cayena was the husband.
No.
No, I mean her husband,
That-
him who quenched our life
Well,
was
yeah, I know
her
that
husband.
I'm talking about your thing that she thought she was going to marry Francesca and then the family tricked her. That's another story tradition, right?
But the husband,
Dante doesn't mention that as far as I know.
I don't know.
So, I don't think it's, at least in my mind, it's not permissible to bring in the story that she was tricked into marrying the wrong guy, and she really wanted
but
to marry Francesca all along.
Well, Barolini talks about these ambiguities, and was it
Okay,
Dante doing it
okay.
deliberately, or was, like you say, um, something people didn't know? And she thinks he was doing it deliberately,
God, I hate
or
to go.
that's my
I
impression.
really hate to go against Barolini. I
mm,
really hate to do that,
But
but it just does not seem logical to me at all that first of all, if she was tricked into marrying the older brother, and the older brother already knew that she and Francesca had a thing going on, the idea that he would even have permitted them to get together to read in private does not fit with my picture of how things worked at that time.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. But Duncan,
Yeah.
no, I'm looking at line 100,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of follows, but I don't know what, because I've got this edition. Love, quick to kindle in the gentle heart, sees this one for the beauty of my body, torn from me. How it happens still offends me. What's that what's that, Teresa? And other people's, what does it say?
What is that line about her body? What line is that?
No, that's 100.
Yeah,
Dee Dee,
100, 101 to 102.
Can you read
It's not,
100?
it's not in Longfellow.
It says
body.
love
Yeah,
that
it is.
un-
Yeah.
What can somebody
Yeah,
else read that?
read that. Somebody read it.
And
It
more
says-
of
Love.
honor still.
go ahead. And go ahead.
And more
No,
of
line
honor
100 is love that on gentle heart doth swiftly sees this man, the person beautiful that was taken from me, and still the mode offends me.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Is that the reference to
The other guy.
her being forced to marry? I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, I can only go by,
I have it, for what it's worth, I have it posited in my notes to the Sayers edition
okay.
as a possibility
Excellent.
that she had been tricked, that they'd pulled a switch on her, and that's what
Yeah.
she's talking about. So those are in Sayers' notes.
Yeah, because how it happened still offends me.
What line is that? I'm lost.
Line 100.
Look at 100.
100. And mine? Oh, look, I'm looking in the wrong canto. I'm sorry. My fault.
Come on, Dee Dee, get with the program here.
My brain is getting tired.
You started this.
I know, and then I got tired.
Okay.
Okay, so listeners, love's for okay.
I see it here.
I
Sees
guess
this
just
man
since-
for the person beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Well, if you
Okay.
want
In
to,
John Ciardi's, will I read that?
sure.
The facts are these. In 1275, Giovanni Malatesta of Rimini, called Giovanni the Lame, which isn't a good start, a somewhat deformed but brave and powerful warrior, made a political marriage with Francesca, daughter of Guido de Polenta of Ravenna. Francesca came to Rimini, and there an armour grew between her and the younger brother Paolo. Despite the fact that Paolo had married in 1269 and had become the father of two daughters by 1275, his affair with Francesca continued for many years. It was sometime between 1283 and 1286 that Giovanni surprised them in Francesca's bedroom and killed both of them. Now, okay, around these facts, which is probably what you're talking about, Didi, the legend has grown that Paolo was sent by Giovanni as his proxy to the marriage. That Francesca thought it was her real bridegroom and accordingly gave him her heart at first sight. The legend obviously increases the pathos, but nothing in Dante gives it support.
Thank you. Where are those notes, Anne?
John Ciardi,
Ciardi.
Ciardi.
It's very
Translation I
similar
picked
to,
up. I picked it up recently.
It is similar
Yeah,
case as Tristan and Isolde. And King Mark. Yeah.
Right. And King Mark had called Isolde. Tristan was simply to escort her to
Ireland.
where King Mark was so they could get married. And of course, then this is another thing that there was a trick. The gods played a trick.
To bring her from Ireland to Cornwall.
Mhm. Well, I think all these ambiguities and confusions are actually excellent because it forces us to think about which story do we personally like best. And is that reasonable to want it to be that way? So he's not letting us escape from anything.
Mhm.
He's just giving us the meat to think about.
I think the other thing that we have to deal with is another layer, and that's that Paolo and Francesca are doubly punished here. So they're robbed of their lives, they're murdered, which is a very serious thing. And then on top of that, they're consigned to hell. And sort of like Hamlet, I suppose, in a way, in that part of the injustice, if you want to look at it here, is because they're murdered, they have no time to repent.
That's a good call there, Dave.
So
Very good, Chris.
That's
Yes.
very good, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But of course, a theologian would say that's why you don't want to wait till the last minute. Repent while you can. You never know when the angel of death will descend.
right, exactly. The old thief in the night theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. But it is. I mean, I'm loving this discussion because, as Duncan said, it is complicated. It's a very complex thing that we're looking at here. Sometimes it's not in the Inferno. Sometimes people get just you just going you did that, you deserve what you've got. And with this one, we've spent the better part of an hour kind of looking at the nuances that are at work here, and I think it's part of the brilliance of the poem.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that somebody that I know talk about legends. I mean, I've never heard of this Paolo and Francesca, this whole story before. And here he's writing about this at this time, these obscure people, an obscure legend, but he's throwing this out that it's quite a lot of grist for discussion. And I would imagine this provoked a lot of discussion in the time among the people reading this, because they probably would have known about this. And they would have thought, well, and he's putting them in the company of these other, you might say, illustrious lovers and love stories, and comparing them and saying, well, here they are this consigned to hell with Helen and Semiramis and Dido, and and what do you think of this? I mean, this is quite provocative, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he by and large is drawing his characters that the people in his time would recognize.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, there may be an occasional one that would be an obscure, and then a contemporary who was reading this would say, "Well, why would Dante bring up that name? I've never even heard of that person."
Exactly, yeah.
But probably 90% of the people he brings up, everybody's familiar with. So it's kind of then it becomes a question of, well, now why did he take this person, this person, this person, this person, and put them all in the same place? What's the theme?
Yeah. It's challenging.
Right, and as we discussed last week, Dido's not a cut and dry case, and as we talked this week, it's ambivalent whether Helen was actually kidnapped or whether she eloped, and so there are like a lot of layers of complexity here.
Right. Well, the way that I kind of simplify it is that in my mind, and believe me, I can be totally wrong, people remain in Inferno because they can't admit that they've really done something wrong. And that no one is necessarily in Inferno forever. That if they can figure out how they got there, and that yes, they are responsible, albeit you can have a lot of excuses, but they are responsible because, once again, I come back to the theme: free will, true love, and justice. Those are the underlying building blocks of the whole structure.
So Duncan, it's it's not like the Hotel California.
It's not really a
Check in,
Hotel
can't check out.
California.
Okay,
Yeah, and
fair
that may
enough.
be that may be because I don't want to be stuck in hell forever, and I'm looking for a way out. But I think it logically and even lovingly, it works quite well. That if one can figure out what one has done wrong and can then transform, if you will, that it's a true get out of jail card. Or even more importantly, it's a get to heaven card. And we will find how canto after canto, everybody who's in the Inferno, in a manner of speaking, insist on being there.
Yeah.
Should we read to the end of the canto and then we can move on to 6 next time?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get most of the way there. It's like when we were going into the Paradiso. There's only so much we can reasonably hurry. But because we're going, I assume that most of us will be reading this again and again and again. We don't need to parse every little bit of whatever we're reading. So, where are we and who's reading?
So,
Who's after? No,
Oh,
who's after me? John? No.
no, Sylvia, then
no,
Anna.
it was Anna. So it's
Anna,
back to you, Duncan, if you want to read.
Back to me? Okay.
You
Love,
wish.
love, oh, let's make sure. Okay, love that exempts no one beloved from loving seized me with pleasure of this man so strongly that as thou seest, it does not yet desert me. And with apologies to Didi, I'm actually going to stop here because this is a really important verse in my mind, or tersima. Love that exempts no one beloved from loving. No argument with that at all.
Oh,
Seized me with pleasure of this man so strongly, even there's no problem with that. It's not the love that's the problem. That's how I interpret this. It's not desire, it's not love that's the problem. That's not why they're here.
Oh, no, I agree.
Exactly.
Okay. And she's actually leaving out the important part. One, because she doesn't understand it. Sees me with pleasure, this man, so strongly that as thou seest, it does not yet desert me. That's not a problem either. It's not a problem for them to desire, to have a loving desire for each other. It was the overcoming of reason. Okay. Love has conducted us unto one death. Okay. Kaina waiteth him who quenched our life. These words were borne along from them to us. Okay. Then Dante. As soon as I heard those souls tormented, I bowed my head and so long held it down until the poet Virgil said to me, what thinkest? When I made answer, I began, alas, so many pleasant thoughts, how much desire conducted these unto the dolorous past. And then unto them I turned me and I spake and I began, Diogenes, Francesca, sad and compassionate to weeping make me. But tell me, at the time of those sad sighs, by what in what manner love conceded that, okay. So I'll stop here with his question, and I'm going to say this is the immature Dante talking. He's totally taken in by her sad story. Okay, Andor, you want to read?
He's not rational, he's emotional.
He's emotional.
Yes.
Right, exactly right. He's not rational. He's not thinking of the fundamental virtues here at all. He's just responding.
His feelings.
But tell me, at the time of those sweet sighs, by what and in what manner love conceded, that you should know your dubious desires. And she to me, there is no greater sorrow than to be mindful of the happy time in misery, and that thy teacher knows. But if to recognize the earliest root of love in us thou hast so great desire, I will do even as he who weeps and speaks. One day we reading were for our delight of Lancelot, how love did him enthrall. Alone we were and without any fear. Full many a time our eyes together drew that reading, and drove the colour from our faces. But one point only was it that overcame us. One time. When as we read of the much longed for smile, being by such a noble lover kissed, this one, who never from me shall be divided, kissed me upon the mouth all palpitation. Gaily Otto was the book and he who wrote it. That day no further did we read therein. And all the while one spirit uttered this. The other one did weep so, that for pity I swooned as if I had been dying, and fell even as a dead body falls. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Conceited.
So it sounds like they were reading this book about Lancelot, and they were sort of overcome by the whole thing, and her lover kissed her on the mouth, and at that point, time stopped, you might say. And that was the end of that, in the sense of that was where she was caught. She never got beyond that. She was so overwhelmed with her desire that she never, in a sense, that's the answer. And so I think in a way his response, he thought that's moved him to greater pity, it seems like, and he swooned away. Dante, that is.
That's definitely part of it, but also remember that Dante was a writer of love poems.
So in a sense, the writer of that love poem was kind of responsible in a way. That kind of he's reflecting.
That's what she's saying. Yes.
Yeah. It's Galeotto.
Galeotto is responsible.
Yeah.
I would like to point out for those who've been saying that that Dante has been placing all the blame on the women, that it was actually Paolo who kissed her. He made the first physical move in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, let me read this note from Hollander. Francesca, whose chief rhetorical strategy is to remove as much blame from herself as she is able, finding other forces at fault whenever possible. For example, Paolo's physical beauty, her despicable husband, the allure of a French romance, here tries to even the score with her husband. She may be damned, but he is the killer of his wife and brother, will be much lower down in the ninth circle. since Giaciotto, who killed her in 1283 to 84, lived until 1304, his shade could not be seen by Dante and Caina. We have, as a result, no basis on which to question her opinion. So, once again, I'm kind of sticking to my point that the thing that keeps these souls in hell is to blame outside forces for whatever they've done or whatever's happened to them.
Yeah, yeah.
And the people of that time, that was fairly recent murder, would have had the same sympathy for Paolo and Francesca, and would have blamed the husband. They would have agreed with her excuse.
Well, she's not saying that our love affair was caused by her husband, no.
No, the murder.
The murder, right.
Yeah.
And look at 136. This is Longfellow. Kissed me upon the mouth all palpitating. So although Paolo was the one who kissed her first, she was ready to be kissed. And I'll just repeat myself again. One reason why Dante faints is not just because he's sympathetic, but also because he knows that he was writing books and poetry of the level of Galeotto, and unconsciously wondering if he's set up some other unfortunate couples for this.
And he had affairs, his own affairs, when he was married.
Yeah.
Probably before he was married. And I love it that the whole scheme of Beatrice coming to his rescue at the start of the whole Inferno, the whole Commedia.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote it, he wrote about his own rescue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she is actually trying to I mean, a lot of his praise of Beatrice, it always has a little bit of a spiritual dimension, but it also has a very physical dimension, certainly in the two early books, the Inferno and the Purgatorio.
Well, I need to go.
All right.
I have to go now. It was wonderful. I hope we can keep going again and again and again.
Well, I plan to be here next Wednesday. Oh, actually, I'm glad you said that. Actually, next Wednesday, I'm going to have a tooth extraction. So I may be doing a lot of listening. According to my dentist, I will be in condition to at least start the Zoom, but I may or may not actively participate.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Carry on.
I'm sure the times that I've disappeared, I keep on thinking, God, I should disappear more often.
And when is the next reading of Finnegan's Wake, Dunk?
You're talking about Jerry's reading or Peter's?
Harry or Peter? No.
That's up to Peter. and I really won't know until he sends it out. All I can say is that I will be sure to forward anything. Are you getting the emails from Peter these days?
No, from Peter, no, I don't know why I
Okay,
don't.
okay, that's a good information. I'll be sure to forward it. Look, Anne has
Can you
sh-
believe it? I have fussed around with every Dante link, and now I've listened to everything. I would have loved to have responded to several
Oh,
things,
oh
but
no.
my computer simply wouldn't let me do audio or video of the Zoom. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why it came in just now.
Oh,
Anyway, you guys are great. The conversation was unbelievable. Was
well,
really
okay, try and get that computer thing worked out. Have you updated your Zoom? Do you use the Zoom app?
no. I use the one that you give in your
Okay, so
email.
you go through the browser. Huh.
That's what I do, and it's always worked. This is the first time I've ever had a problem. So
Mm.
I'm having some other problems with the computer too. So I don't know whether someone's trying, a hacking is going on or
Mm.
computers
I,
breaking
I,
down.
I would suggest when there are events that you really want to attend, of just rebooting your computer an hour or two before.
Oh,
That may solve the problem.
oh,
Many times it does.
that you're right.
So I would try that, and
That's a good idea.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks,
Bye
Eddie.
Thank you,
bye.
Duncan.
Bye bye,
Much
everybody.
appreciated.
next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.